Good morning. I'm really happy to be back with you. Thank you for your patience as I navigate my move. I have Wi-Fi. I'm in my new space. Hopefully, as time goes on, I can see if my Wi-Fi signal is strong enough to get it outside. And we can meditate with the sounds of the birds around. We're going to be continuing our practice and mindfulness on different forms of right action, right speech we've already been through. It's continuing this exploration of this idea that the Buddha said once the wheel is in motion and it's set in motion, it will continue. So don't worry if you're getting lost or caught up in all of these different ideas. We studied the Sutta Satipatthana, we studied general mindfulness. Now we're on this Dhamma wheel together, and these eight teachings of the Eightfold Path it's just one more way, one more framework to have in your back pocket, both here as structure to practice in the moment in this next half hour, and then also to start bringing into your daily life if um, possible. These lists and these practices were and are still supportive, but especially when there was no written word and there was a memorization required to recall quickly some of these frameworks. So don't get too hung up on where we are, whether it was the suttas, general mindfulness, or now in the Eightfold Path. It's more important to be in the practice than to think about where are we, or are we on 3 of 8 or are we on 4 of 8? That doesn't matter as much as actual embodiment and mindfulness of the practice. So we started with right speech. Last week we were on right action. Today we are on the concept of right living, which ties so nicely with right action. So if you think about our practice from last week and right action being those moment to moment decisions that are being made, which are in alignment with our highest good, your spirituality, whatever the word is that you want to use to describe this thing we're doing called life. Now, right livelihood, and it takes that we're built, the reason we're doing this out of order is because I think it builds from practical to more philosophical, and we're working our way there. Right living brings moment to moment action into this. You can kind of take a step back and examine at a higher level from action to action. Maybe you start thinking about seasons of your life, weeks, months, quarters, seasonally, maybe where you are in your age. Nobody knows how long or how many years we have, but age informs quite a bit. And this is a really interesting concept. This is a really interesting thing to think about. And it's important not to come into judgment here. Let's keep our mindfulness and our reflection, our contemplation today as non-judgmental as we can. Think about those bigger parts of your life. You can think about relationships. You can think about the work that you do. You can think about your consumption cycles, whether it's food or consumer goods, or in my case, I just bought a home. You can also think about this is not a light topic for a Tuesday morning. What am I doing here? Speech, the way you speak to yourself and others, informs the way that you act. And maybe these things can be more in line with right living, right? So let's take some time in our meditation, a little bit of time for silence, to think about the bigger picture here. Any of those areas that maybe stood out to you might be a good place to start. Relationships, the work that you do, the way that you consume, or this really big picture of what are you doing here? And let's use this as the basis of our meditation today. As always, eyes closed might serve you best, but if not, softening your gaze is always helpful. And we'll just be in contemplation for a little bit of time. There's a difference between discernment and judgment. So you can go through these aspects for curiosity of how has it been? And is it in line with how you want it to be? We'll stay here for a little bit. And as you continue to stay on this general area, consider what is the ideal state? What is the ideal state? If you look back on your life, one of the things that sometimes seems grim about these practices is at the end of your days, what do you want to have looking back on and think, man, I really nailed that. But you may recall from the Satipatthana Sutta, those cemetery contemplations, our body exists, will continue to change, and then it will eventually go away. And it's actually a really freeing, very motivating idea, right? What do you want out of this finite time on Earth where we have manifested, where we've come into existence? What, as you think about that, the word deserve keeps coming up, or deservability is one of my teachers likes to say. What do you think you're deserving of? And I was just having this conversation with my husband. We don't have kids, but either if you have kids or nieces and nephews, we were talking about my niece and nephew, and we're just so enamored with their potential and just wanting so much for them and everything that we want for them in life, not specifically, but just knowing that they deserve the best life possible. And turn that to yourself. If you have kids, I've heard that that's easy to do, to want all of that of your kids. For me, I want all of that for my nieces and nephews. Can you raise your deservability, or is the deservability at a pretty good place? I want to have a phenomenal relationship with my partner, with my husband, with my wife. I want to have an amazing relationship with my parents, my kids, your pets. I want to have an amazing career. I want to have an amazing house. I want to go on amazing vacations, like whatever it is. This is right living in the broadest sense of the term. I want to have amazing meals every night. Where's your level of deservability? And when we contemplate the end of our days, will we look back and see how I'm talking to myself? Right speech is informing right action, those moment-to-moment decisions to align with this big, lofty, right living idea. So you can stay with the contemplation, the area of life you've chosen, or change it. And we'll be here for about 10, 15 more minutes. Curiosity. It's still metame, so also kindness, loving kindness in our meditation in all things. Stick with it. And if the mind has wandered away, as it often does, just keep coming back. You can develop skillfulness in each moment. Right action is that gentle noticing and return. Some people think there's no aspirations to meditation, that it's just inherently valuable, which I agree with. And I think that actual process of meditation is all of those micro moments. As I've often said, moments of bliss are so fleeting. Happiness, joy, elation, whatever the word. When we can learn to recognize and come back with kindness to our chosen object of mindfulness, our right living for today, we are doing just perfectly fine. So stick with it. For these last few minutes of practice, you can just let yourself coast, if that's possible. Ride the wave of your experience. Taking this practice off the cushion and into our day doesn't seem like the right prescription for this type of lofty, aspirational practice. If you are interested in or already a journal practitioner, I encourage you to maybe bring pen to paper in some of these areas that are really big, that really matter in life. Maybe incredible dinners isn't that big of a deal to you. Maybe your day job isn't that big of a deal to you. It's all good. Where are those areas that at the end of your days will really, really matter? And maybe jot down just free write for 5, 6, 7 minutes. Set it aside and then come back. Come back to that writing in a day or two and see, is that reflective of what you deserve? Maybe that's incredible. No judgment, remember. And if there's opportunity to live your most incredible, fulfilling, beautiful, difficult life, maybe raise that bar on deservability in the same way that you would hope for that life of your kid, your niece, your nephew, somebody you love, a really good pal. We'll continue on in this practice, the Eightfold Path, on our Tuesday sits coming up. Back to Insight on Thursday. As we close our practice today, you're welcome to bring hands to heart center, slight tuck of the chin to your chest. We're humble here. We give thanks to the teachers, especially the Buddha, in informing us on this noble path that we are on. Thank ourselves for committing to this practice and being here. You're here for you. May the merits of this practice be of benefit to all sentient beings, ourselves included in the circle of compassion always. Thank you so much for your practice. Thank you so much for your patience as I get going again. We're back. It was really good to see all of your Zoom squares this morning. Have a beautiful day.
Thanks, Bethany.
You're welcome.